On today's episode of Three Wide in the Middle, me and Keith kick things off with our thoughts on inverts. Everybody loved them after the million. Now everybody hates them after the King's Royal. What the hell is up with that? So we dive into that, and we've got our favorite portion of the show, Hit or Miss, where we dive into the return of the road course ringer at the Indy Oval Road Course. Indy Road Course? Yes, that's where they're racing, the Indy Road Course. I should have said that better. Plus, will Chase Elliot actually make the playoffs? I don't know. And is Martin Truex one of the favorites to make the Final Four in the NASCAR playoffs? After that, we dive into our NASCAR Pick'em, where it only takes us a few minutes to make our selections for Pocono. And then we get into our dirt track recap, where there's huge news in the sprint car racing world as two drivers are getting a shot in the Clauson-Marshall number 7 of Tyler Courtney's, as he is out with a pretty bad injury following Eldora, plus some big drivers not making the feature in the King's Royal. And it is the kickoff of me and Keith's favorite week of the year, which we believe should be a national holiday. So all of that and more on today's episode of Three Wide in the Middle.
Today's episode is brought to you by Produxa. Look, you guys, when it comes to protecting and adding a mirror-like shine to your surfaces, you pretty much have two options. You can go with one of those low, quality products out there. Do the old school, like my parents used to do, use the old dish soap to wash your car, or you can go with Produxa. You guys, I've personally used this stuff and it works incredible, man. Whether it's their ceramic coating, their wash, their tire shine, and it not only looks great, but it's super easy to use. I mean, my 10-year-old son was helping me use this stuff, and we used it on my daughter's car, and the car literally looked new. And my daughter's 17, so you can imagine that the car did not look new before we washed it. So if you want to actually give your car a mirror-like shine while in the process protecting it, head over to Produxa.com or the link down in the description below and check out their full line of products today. I can promise you, you will love them.
What is up, everybody? Thomas Brandon here, and with me, as always, Keith Bradley. Welcome to Three Wide in the Middle, and we got a ton of stuff to talk about in this week's podcast. Keith, how's it going? How was your weekend, man?
It was pretty good.
Nice, right on.
Pretty good. How was your weekend?
It was hot and freaking miserable. It's still hot here. Yeah, it was exhausting. Nothing's changed on my front. I'm exhausted. I'm working. I was up till 11:30 midnight last night working. I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning. That's been my life this year, and that's just whatever. So I'm tired as always, exhausted as always, sore, and yeah, here to do it again. So like I said before, this a couple nights ago on one of my live streams, I'm not complaining. It's a good problem to have. It could be way worse. So it just sucks when I'm outside working and it's 115 degrees outside and I could literally feel the bottoms of my shoes like melting into the asphalt.
Yeah, I'm good there.
Yeah. So yeah, we've had this massive heat wave coming through, man, and it's just not stopping. And for us, understand how we get heat, right? Like California gets hot. It's, Northern California where I'm at. It gets hot. We've always had hot summers. But for us, it gets really miserable when it is, 112 during the daytime. And then when it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's still 97 degrees outside and it's humid, right? Like that's where it really hurts us, like, because we're not used to that. Okay, we're not used to that. Even though I've been in way worse humidity, right? Back when I was in North Carolina or, different places, when we were racing, I don't experience that on a daily basis. So we're not used to that. So when it comes, it's I mean, as you know, it's freaking miserable. But for us, it's just we're so not accustomed to it. It's like being slapped in the face, man. I hate it. So
Yeah, it'll suck the life out of you
it
for
really
sure.
does. Yeah, it
Mm,
really does. You know,
I
yesterday
freaking
I
hate.
yesterday it was 110, and I literally spent the whole day in direct. So I was literally outside, direct sunlight, no shade, pulling shattered windshields and back glasses out of cars, and they were cars that had been sitting in the sun all day long. And you open the door and you sit inside because I got to unhook all the stuff from the inside because of course now windshields, it's not like it used to be where it used to be a mirror. Right now you've got like this computer system that hangs on the inside of a windshield because it's got lane departure and crash protection and automatic stopping and heated wiper park and all these different things. And so you got, that's all electronics and stuff that we have to unhook. And I don't know if when your car's been out in the sun for a few hours on a hot day and you get into it, right? That initial heat, you're just like, oh my God. And then if you have air conditioning, you turn it on and, whew, man, can't wait for this to kick in. We don't have that luxury. We just have to sit out there and sweat in the sauna. And that's what I was doing yesterday. And I was so hot. And this car had so much broken glass that the glass was sticking to me. Um, and when I would get out of the car, I shimmered. Like I like sparkled because I had so much like it's almost like dust. But it's how it almost looks is like dust. It's like glass dust. When a windshield shatters, you know that windshields don't shatter like a side glass does or a back glass, right? Like those actually shatter into a bunch of little pieces. Well, believe it or not, those little pieces are much easier to deal with. They're bigger chunks, even though they're small pieces, but they're bigger chunks. And they're much easier to clean, and the whole glass just falls right out. A windshield is designed not to do that. Okay, a windshield is two pieces of glass, and there's this filament, this fiber that they put in between it that when they press it together and heat it up, it turns clear so you can see through it. But there's actually this mesh material. I don't know what the hell it is, but that's what goes in between a windshield. That's what makes it when you get a crack in your windshield. That's what holds the windshield together. That's why it doesn't do that. A lot of people don't realize the windshield of a car, especially nowadays, is part of the structural integrity of your car. If you flip over, part of the thing that holds your roof up from caving in on your head is your windshield, believe it or not. It has that much integrity to the structure of the car, of the vehicle. Well, when somebody takes a baseball bat to your windshield, right, and smashes it in, the windshield stays in, but it just cracks, and all the little, it's like I said, it's almost like dust falls inside. You get all these little slivers and shards, and they get everywhere. And you'll vacuum it up, and it's still there, right? You think you've gotten it all, and it's still there. And like I said, I would go in there, and I'm sweating, and I'm reaching and doing stuff. Next thing I know, I pull back my arm, and I'm like sparkling. I look like that one. I can't remember what her name was in the X-Men comics, but she like could turn her body into diamonds. Like that's what I looked like. It was like, what the hell's going on? So, yeah, interesting day yesterday. I know I've always got fucking glass stories to talk about. It's so crazy the stuff that I see every day with people's cars. It's just nuts. It's wild. Yeah, and yesterday we had two different cars both of them had their glass shattered out in multiple spots. One guy's car, this was like a brand new Ford Mustang 5.0 GT. Like, I mean, this is it was a very nice car. Very nice car. And it was like somebody took a baseball bat to it and shattered out the windshield, shattered out the back glass, shattered out the quarter glasses. I mean, just beat it. And we had another one with the windshield that looked the same. It was just like, what? Someone going around smashing windshields with the Louisville Slugger? Or what's going on? So, anyways, yeah, all kinds of fun. But I got to cover a topic in the open, and it's more along the mindset of people as opposed to what just the topic is, because the topic is inverts. And after this last weekend's 4 days at Eldora, we literally had in like a 36-hour time frame people going from inverts are awesome, we need inverts all the time, to inverts suck, they should be running things straight up. And the question is, well, what is the reasoning for this? What caused the sudden change of heart in the masses during this, 4-day period? Well, if you remember, the Eldora Million had a very interesting format. And me and Keith, I'm sure you still agree, that was one of the coolest formats ever. The way that they did it, the every lap matters. You could basically change the heat. You could invert. You could do whatever you wanted because you were earning points based on where you had qualified, where you had ran before, where you had moved to, right? You weren't getting quote unquote passing points, but every position you gained gave you a big jump in points. It wasn't like the Knoxville Nationals where it was a 2-point increase. You're looking at a 4-point increase. So it made for really good racing. The track was obviously very racy. There was multiple grooves essentially from like the first heat race. You saw passes being made, drivers moving up, and it set the stage for what was an awesome night number 2 and just a great race. The whole event was amazing. And the inverts had a lot to do with that on the preliminary night. Fast forward to Saturday night, we get inverts once again for the King's Royal, and now everybody hates it. You've got the top qualifiers not even making the feature. Brad Sweet, Darren Pittman, a lot of these guys who not only did they, run well in the Eldora Million, in the case of like a Brad Sweet, like he won one of the preliminary nights, right? Brian Brown also, right? Very, very good. Missed the feature. Logan Schuchart, the man who won the Eldora Million, missed the feature for the King's Royal. Okay? And keep in mind, Schuchart, it's not like he qualified 50th. The dude qualified 3rd. Brad Sweet qualified 5th. Jacob Allen qualified 6th and missed the feature. Brian Brown qualified 11th. Pittman 12th. So there was this really big uproar about these guys missing the feature, and a lot of it had to do with being punished by the invert. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up, like I said, was because the sudden change of heart. Now, first, we got to cover the conspiracy theory that is out there, that which is David Gravel hit the invert perfectly, one of the most prolific qualifiers of all time, was able to land right in the 6-car spot that was being inverted so he could start on the pole of his heat race. For anybody who actually watched that race, it's very easy to sit there and say that Gravel did that on purpose and he sandbagged. And you know what? If he did, then he's even a better qualifier than we think he is. Because understand that the difference between, hitting the invert and missing the invert was, it's not even like a couple tenths. It was like a few hundredths of a second. Okay? I think the invert was 31, was it 31 to 36? I think so, Keith, something like that.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, you're talking about 0.224 seconds, right? Or a 13015 at, let's see, a 13058, was 30th, and 37th was a 13.111. That is a couple hundredths of a second. I don't care who it is, right? No driver out there, unless they are literally some type of scientific experiment that we don't know of, right? Elon Musk has put his, Neuralink in them without telling us. Like, no driver is going to be able to shave that off knowingly. You just can't do it. You could try and hope that you get it, right? But to say that he knew and was under control and like he nailed intentionally, I think that's a little ridiculous. He might have tried. He might have said, I'm going to drag some brake. I know I'm usually fast. I know I'm going to be, up towards the front. Yes, he was very fast in hot laps, but his lap time, if you look at what he did in practice and what he did in qualifying, he was only 100th of a second off. David Gravel was second in hot laps. Okay, he turned a 13.064 in hot laps. He turned a 13.074 in qualifying. So it was basically the same speed, but in qualifying, he was 33rd, right? So, Abreu, who only turned a 13.0 in hot laps, he was second quick with the 12.8. So, I mean, did the track get faster? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. All I know is that for us to say that, he hit it intentionally and it worked. If he did, hats off, okay? Because to me, if there's going to be an invert and it's announced before and you can hit it, congratulations. I don't personally like that. I don't want to think that drivers are out there trying to go slow in qualifying to hit an invert. And this is my issue with inverts. Now, keep in mind, let me preface this by saying I actually love inverts. I think inverts are amazing. Me and Keith were talking about this before we started the show. One of the things I like about USAC, sprint cars and midgets and stuff like that, is the fact that they will do inverts and do it. The sprint cars, what, Keith? Don't they invert like everything? Like they invert like heat races, features. I mean, it's like everything's inverted.
Yeah, they invert after qualifying for the heat races, and then after that, I can't remember if it's inverted again. I want to say it is, but I could be totally wrong. But I almost want to say it is. And hey, look, they put on impressive races. Now, granted, yeah, we're comparing non-wing sprint cars to wing sprint cars, totally different type of car.
Mm-hmm.
But I think inverts are great, especially for the big crown jewel races.
Yes, I do too. And the way that I think they are great is when we have a multiple night event. And this is what made the million so cool. I've seen some people say, oh, well, it was too much. They did too many inverts. Now, these people were praising the inverts before the King's Royal. After the King's Royal, now they're going back retroactively and saying that the inverts sucked in the million. That is a stupid argument. People who do that, shut up, okay? At least if you're going to make an argument, at least stand on your principles or develop some. Don't be so wishy-washy that you're going to literally just go with the flavor of the day and change what you had stated merely 48 hours previously, because that's dumb. Okay, you have no leg to stand on. And for me personally, I have zero respect for you if you're going to just change however you feel whenever you feel. That's just idiotic. Okay, like I tell my son, everything you say and do matters. You got to have some kind of grounds. And if you're just going to come out and be like, oh, that was great, the million was awesome, I love the format, inverts are awesome, and then after the King's Royal, be like, inverts suck, they shouldn't have done it, that thing with the million, the wheel, it was stupid, it's like, what happened? Like, what, you changed your mind that quickly? So, those people who are saying that, just shut up, okay? I don't want to hear from you, just be quiet. My thing with inverts is that you cannot punish speed when it comes to the final results. So what do I mean by that? The Eldora Million, like we talked about, was awesome. They did inverts the first night. Every lap mattered. You earned points, and it sets you up for the final night of the Eldora Million, which was how you were seated in the heat races. And then after that, everything was essentially, right, just straightforward. Now, you could, keep in mind, based on your heat race finish, you did pill draw for where you started, and it was a 6-spot block, right? Essentially 3 rows. But I don't have an issue with that, just because if you started fifth, right? So, for example, Logan Schuchart got number 1. After the race that Logan Schuchart had, does anybody think if Logan Schuchart started 5th that he would not have been up there competing for the win? Yes, he got the number 1, but he had shown incredible speed, and Logan Schuchart is fast at Eldora. Okay, so there's nothing that makes me think if he had gotten the 6 that we would have been like, oh well, Schuchart, he got screwed, right? Because yes, clean air does matter, and that is one thing that you have to consider with the wing sprint cars is the clean air, dirty air aspect of it. But Schuchart was so fast, I think he could have won the race starting anywhere in the top 6. He put himself in the right position, he got it, and there you go. Okay, when it comes to the final night of the King's Royal, now you're qualifying and now you're punishing speed. So you're fast in qualifying, you're now being punished, and that I do have a problem with. You want to do it on the night before the King's Royal, and that helps you determine something on the final night of the King's Royal, right? The actual King's Royal event. I'm okay with that, okay? But on the final night, which is going to determine the actual who makes the feature or where you're going to start, that's where I don't like the inverts, okay? Because as I said, once again, it punishes speed. And racing, last I checked, is all about who's the fastest. So that's my point with the inverts. Another thing, and I know people are going to say, well, Tommy, you guys just talked about it. USAC inverts like everything. Yes, they do. And guess what? In a USAC sprint car, I can make up for a shortage of speed with racecraft because I don't have to worry about things like dirty air. Okay? Yes, the non-wing sprint cars, they do obviously, there is some turbulence and you can feel some air and stuff like that because when you have cars going that fast, that big, right, even just with the paneling and the body parts and stuff like that, you're going to have some disturbance of air, but it's not like the wing sprint cars, right? You're not going to hear Justin Grant get out of his car and go, man, Brady Bacon's, wake that he was kicking up just was screwing me over. No, if he's faster than him, if Grant's faster than Bacon, he'll figure out a way around him. Right? You can throw some dive bomb from the flag stand and he'll be able to get by. So for that, go right ahead because those guys can race their way up to the front. It's not going to make as big of a difference. With the wing sprint car, air is so important now. In a sense, just like me and Keith were talking before, when the last couple of years that I was doing this stuff where I was actually setting these things up, we never considered the ramifications of dirty air. That wasn't a thought. We didn't even think about that. We treated it like every car was in a vacuum, meaning that like we just thought like magically the air around our car was just like our air, like that's how you thought about it. You didn't think of like, oh, there's going to be 10 cars in front of us all disturbing the air that's going to be hitting our car, our nose wing and then top. We didn't think like that. It wasn't until like towards the end of my time as a sprint car mechanic where we even started hearing about World of Outlaw teams putting cars in wind tunnels, right? Like that was becoming a thing. So when you have a car like they are now, where the air is so important, I don't like the fact that you punish speed, because then what are we qualifying for except to say, hey, maybe you can get lucky and hit the invert. All right, Keith, it is time for our favorite portion of the show, hit or miss. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, we got a bunch of stuff to cover today. And we are going to kick things off with New Hampshire's winner, Martin Truex Jr. So after Martin Truex Jr.'s dominant win at New Hampshire, he shows that he is one of the favorites to make the Final Four at Phoenix. Hit or miss the mark?
I've been saying that he wouldn't, that he needs to be more consistent, and I think it hits the mark. He's getting hot at the right time, and we all know how Martin Truex Jr. is. Once when he gets hot, he's hot for a while. I'd agree with it. Definitely hits the mark.
Yeah, his one thing I've noticed about Martin Truex Jr. When he wins is that it's usually freaking boring. You can almost always know when it's a Truex victory because like if you ever notice that he leads like it's like always like 75% of the laps, like you don't see a lot of Martin Truex Jr. wins where it's like, hey, Truex won the race and there was 300 laps and he only led the last 12. Usually it's like it was this last weekend. It was like, there's 301 laps and Truex led 250 of them. Like, it's usually dominant. And that's how he's looked this year in the races that he's won. He is finally gotten stuff figured out with this car. Last year, for all their struggles they had, they have definitely turned it around. He's showing that he's still very, very much at the top of his game. And I'm right there. I think he is showing right now at this point, if they can maintain this, that he is one of the favorites to make the Final Four. And with the playoff points that he is amassing in terms of the the standings, with the bonus points and stuff like that, he's on top of the point standings for both regular season and the projected playoffs right now. He's ahead of William Byron, and he's got 3 wins on the season. He has been very, very consistent, especially over the last couple months of the season. And yeah, I would definitely be on the lookout for him because they are looking extremely strong right now.
Yeah, and I definitely wouldn't sleep on him either.
No, no, not one bit. So, next up, NASCAR driver silly season in full effect as Justin Haley, word has come out that he is going to be going to Rick Ware Racing. So, Keith, Justin Haley is making a massive mistake leaving Kaulig for Rick Ware Racing. Hit or miss the mark?
Hits the mark over and over and over and over again. Because, and hear me out, why would you want to leave a team where an owner started a cup program to build around you? As in Justin Haley. Matt Kaulig built that team around Justin, the cup team, and they formed the alliance with Richard Childress. They're slowly getting better. I'm sure they're not where they want to be, right? But they're better than Rick Ware. I feel like he just took 10 steps back. Why would you go to one of the worst teams in the Cup Series? Why? I just can't fathom that idea. That'd be like Kevin Harvick leaving Stewart-Haas to go to Live Fast. It don't make sense. It really don't. And there's got to be something going on other than just going to Rick Ware, whether it's a massive upgrade that Rick Ware's making, a bigger alliance with a bigger team. Who knows? We'll have to sit back and see. I think he just made a major mistake.
Out of the manufacturers, Ford would be the least appealing to me to go to, right? Unless they've got some kind of plans behind the scenes that we don't know about in terms of how to improve. Because I'm telling you right now, we talked about it before, if you take Harvick, Logano, and Blaney out, like, Ford's done. Like, they're horrible, right? They're just not competitive. I think it's more of a testament to those 3 drivers opposed to Ford, right? Where we could take the top 3 drivers out of Chevy. We could even take the top 3 drivers away from Toyota. Think about that. There's not that many Toyota drivers to begin with, and they would still be incredible. So, what they've got going on in terms of future plans and what does this mean? Did, Rick Ware lure Justin Haley away, or did Kaulig drop the ball? I don't know until more details comes out. I don't know. But I'm with you, man. I was very shocked by this. This was essentially, this team was started essentially, for Justin Haley. And Haley's only 24 years old. He's still got a lot of racing left. But it's like, it reminds me kind of Corey LaJoie and Spire, right? Like, they've grown together. And we've seen them get better every year. And Corey LaJoie, as much as he would love to have one of those top seats, he also, you can tell when he talks, he has a lot of ties to Spire Motorsports because they've kind of grown up together, right? They've built this thing together. And so for Haley to be leaving Kaulig like that, it's really interesting. I don't know what would cause that.
what concerns me with it is the RFK Alliance. They started last year or the year before, and they've not done nothing since then.
No, they haven't. They
So,
haven't.
but on the other hand, and this is where I think this will benefit Rick Ware more than it'll benefit Justin Haley. Let's be honest, this will be the best driver that stepped in to one of the Rick Ware cars. I'm not even going to count Ryan Newman because I think he's washed. He was washed last year or the year before last. I'm not even going to put him in the fold with Rick Ware.
Yeah.
This is an upgrade to a point. Now it's just we're gonna have to sit back and see how it works. I'm very confused because, like you said, you take them top guys out of Ford, the Harvick, Blaney, and Logano, and what's Ford have?
Yeah,
Nothing.
exactly.
Nothing to show
Exactly.
for it.
Exactly.
So
So we'll have to see. Like I said, there hasn't been a whole lot that has come out. Colleague still, from last I checked, which was a little while ago, they still haven't really made a statement on this. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say about this and why Haley is leaving. Right, like I said, we don't know if Justin Haley's leaving them or Colleague dropped the ball or what. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. All right. Next up, big bombshell news dropped within the last 24 hours as SVG Shane Van Gisbergen will make his second NASCAR Cup start at the Indy road course, and Keith, he will score another top 5, hit or miss the mark.
I think it hits the mark. I really do. I think this car plays into SVG's hands, especially at these road courses. I mean, they're very, very similar to the V8 supercars. The cars are damn near identical, minus maybe a couple things.
Yeah, shifting on the opposite side and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, maybe this is another tryout for that 31 car over at Colleague. Who knows? But
Yeah.
I'd
Well,
I'd say he might be the favorite to win the damn thing. I'm just gonna say that.
I will say this. This is the race. This is a race that I want to see, and we talked about this after he won the Chicago Street Course, right? If there was ever, obviously the dude is good. Make no mistake about it. The dude is phenomenal. But we talked about it with that race in particular. There's a very, very big difference between a street course and an actual road course, right? A purpose built road course. They're two very different things. And SVG had a lot of experience on street courses. Most of these NASCAR Cup guys did not. This was a completely different track, right? So if you are looking at, right, the favorite of, hey, who's going to figure out this street course the fastest, right? Obviously the guy who runs them is going to have an edge on that. So we talked about it after his win in Chicago that we would like to see him against the Cup guys on a track that they've done before, that they actually have some experience at, and see if the tables can turn. And we're going to get that now. And I'm really looking forward to it because this is a very different race. We all remember the carnage that is turn 1 at the Indy road course. In fact, it's one of the biggest, clusterclucks we've ever seen. Where they're 5 wide and running into each other, and it's just carnage going into turn 1. So this is going to be a very different race. Now, he could put it on the pole and drive away from everybody. That is 100% possible. And if he does, right, if he does come out and have another phenomenal race where he runs up front or in the top 3, top 5 the whole race, it's going to be incredible to see. And I think you're going to see even more of these guys coming over. What's his name? Kostecki, another V8 supercar driver, is also running in it. You got Kobayashi, who's going to be running it. Jensen Button's running in that race too. I mean, the Indy road course is literally shaping up to be, like what IROC always wanted to have, right? Where you've literally got the champions of champions from all over the world coming and racing this race. So it's going to be really, really interesting. I normally don't look forward to the Indy Road Course. I'm actually excited about it this year just because of who's racing in it.
Yeah, I think this definitely brings another an excitement level to it. I just I think these V8 supercar guys are going to benefit. I really do. I don't think it's going to take them long to get acclimated to the racetrack. I mean, the grip levels are going to be very, very different
Yeah,
compared to a street course. But I don't think it's going to take them long to figure it out.
no, no, I'm with you. I think that we're going to see SVG for sure up running in the top 10 at minimum. So, all right, our fourth and final hit or miss of the day. Once again, Chase Elliott has a very underwhelming day in New Hampshire, and he will not score a win and will miss the playoffs this year. Hit or miss the mark. I already know what your answer is, but
I they're so it hits the mark for me for one. And this ain't a knock to Chase Elliott or his fan base that can go eat a big one. But the 9, the 48 are very inconsistent. And it's weird because it's at places that you would think Chase Elliott would be running towards the front, and it just ain't happening. Um, will they figure it out? I'm sure. He's got plenty of other opportunities to win. They got some strong tracks coming up. I don't see it happening. I really don't. Not with the way Martin Truex Jr. is running right now, and now you
well, and
get
also
the
his
Indy.
teammates Byron and Larson.
Oh yeah, I mean Byron's killing it, Larson's killing it, and then you throw in the Indy road course where you think he'll have a shot to win, and then SVG's like, oh well, I'm going to show up and probably win. It's the hourglass has almost ran out, and I don't see him making it. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I've batted this back and forth so many times, and there something's off with that car this season. Now, obviously, he had the injury, he had the suspension, right? There's been a lot that has gone against that team this season, and him and the 48 are both very inconsistent. I mean, remember Alex Bowman was leading points, and it actually wasn't that long ago, if you look at it. And Larson and Byron, who also suffered massive penalties, are up towards the front in the points, right? Byron's second in points right now. Both him and Larson are running up front on a consistent basis. Now, there are some tracks coming up that Elliott has done very well at. You can make the argument that he should have won Watkins Glen last year. He got bumped by his teammate, which to me was just racing. He's also won at Pocono, which is where they're going, this weekend? Or is it this weekend? Yeah, this weekend. So, he's got some tracks that he can win at. I do think we will see them running up front again. The question is, will they be up there competing for wins before the conclusion of Daytona? That's, here in a few, we've only got about 5 weeks, 6 races left. There's not a lot before the playoffs. So they're up against the clock, man. They're not going to point their way in. They've got it. They've got to get a win. They've got to get a win. And
Yeah.
I just don't know if we're going to see them do that. I mean, obviously, it's still possible they can put it all together for a race because we've seen that team before be just dominant at tracks. But they better do it fast because time is running out.
Well, and what sucks is they're getting into the part of the schedule where it's going to start falling into the Toyota strength, like Pocono, Richmond, Michigan. I'm going to throw up as a wild card. The only 2 races that I could realistically see him having a chance to win is Indy Road Course and Watkins Glen. But even then, everybody claims that he's this great road course racer, which he is. but there's others that have stepped up and has been better. Tyler Reddick comes to mind. Um,
Yeah. Hell, Denny
to go
Hamlin
back,
was phenomenal at
yeah,
Chicago before the rain came.
absolutely. And I think their backs against the wall and they don't know which way to go.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. It's a tough spot to be in. And when you are, pressure is something that can be very hard and difficult to deal with. And some people and some groups or some teams can handle it better than others. That's one thing you can never predict is desperation, right? So when you're going into the last race of the regular season at Daytona, if you are Chase Elliott or the 9 team, right? And you don't have a win yet and you're on the outside looking in, your level of desperation and what you're willing to do is going to be different than the 11 car or the 5 car or, whoever. Right? Take your pick of the guys in the playoffs. And it's one of those things that can propel you or it can destroy you. And these guys are going to have their moment this next, month and a half to prove themselves under pressure because they're in it. They are 100% in it. And it's going to be interesting to see if that 9 car can get itself into the playoffs because right now it's looking pretty grim. All right, so that's going to do it for Hit or Miss. But after the break, we are going to be back with our NASCAR Pick'em and then our dirt track recap. So stick around.
Today's episode is brought to you by Produxa. Look, you guys, when it comes to protecting and adding a mirror-like shine to your surfaces, you pretty much have 2 options. You can go with one of those low, quality products out there. Do the old school, like my parents used to do, use the old dish soap to wash your car, or you can go with Produxa. You guys, I've personally used this stuff and it works incredible, man. Whether it's their ceramic coating, their wash, their tire shine, and it not only looks great, but it's super easy to use. I mean, my 10-year-old son was helping me use this stuff, and we used it on my daughter's car, and the car literally looked new. And my daughter's 17, so you can imagine that the car did not look new before we washed it. So if you want to actually give your car a mirror-like shine while in the process protecting it, head over to Produxa.com or the link down in the description below and check out their full line of products today. I can promise you, you will love them.
All right, it is now time for our NASCAR Pick'em. Keith, do you remember who you had last week?
Tyler Reddick.
Tyler Reddick. I should have probably done this before. I did not see. Where did Tyler Reddick finish? I did not even see. He finished 6th. That's right. I had freaking Christopher Bell. Damn you, Seabell. Because he did not. Tyler Reddick. It was looking good, right? Starting on the pole. Thought we had a shot, but we finished 29th. So that gives you the win as you increase your lead even more. So we've got Pocono this week. Who are you taking?
Denny Hamlin.
That is a good one. I know we can all make the jokes about the tape and everything. Last year, I don't think that is why they won the race. I really don't. If you look at the actual numbers, like what that did in terms of downforce improvement, it was like 2, whatever they call it, 2 points, 2 bips or so. I mean, it was it's almost immeasurable. You can't even measure it. It's so small. So we've talked about it in the previous segment. There's tracks that these Toyotas are just awesome at. these bigger, faster tracks, they seem it's so weird because it's like the shortest tracks and then the biggest tracks. The Toyotas do really well. It's kind of odd. So I pains me to say it, but I think you're on to something with Denny Hamlin, because Hamlin has definitely looked good. So
Just please don't put the tape on the nose. That's all I ask.
yeah, I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I don't know who I'm going to pick though. Man. Oh man. You know what? I am going to pick. This is such a shot. It's just such a desperation play. Have I already picked him?
Kyle Busch is a favorite if you need help.
Yeah, I've already had Kyle Busch though. I'm actually going to pick Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And I have not picked him yet, I don't think. No, I have not. Nope. Yeah, I'm going to pick Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I know this isn't a restrictor plate track, but drafting does play a role here. He does seem to do well at these bigger tracks like this. So I
like it.
I'm going to go with Stenhouse. Hopefully he can come through and beat Hamlin, although I'm not counting on that. So, anyways, that's our NASCAR Pick'em. Moving on to the dirt track recap, and man, dirt racing has been incredible. So obviously, last week we did our show after the million. We did the recap of that, our preview of the Kings Royal, and of course, neither of us picked Donny Schatz, who ended up winning the Kings Royal and dominated. Me and Keith were talking about this before the show, and I said this. Schatz looked like the 10-time champion Donny Schatz. That was a dominating performance. It's so funny that the stuff that you hear coming out after the race. People, oh, well, it rained and the track was fast and heavy. Who cares? Who cares? He did what he had to do. He started up front and he put it on them. Period. It does not matter. This stuff where when your driver doesn't win, you got to come up with freaking excuses is ridiculous, man. Shut up. Donny Schatz got it done. I don't care if the track was tacky, slick, bumpy, rough, whatever. He just kicked their ass. That's all there is to it. And won his, what was that, his 6th Kings Royal? I mean, just, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
He delivered one of them old-fashioned ass whippings we like to call it.
Yes, man, that was an old school beatdown.
He lapped all the way up to 9th, 10th. And was on the heels of Casey Kane to putting him a lap down the finish 9th.
Yeah.
Led all 40 laps. I mean,
and keep in mind they have a fuel stop.
Yeah, and with the open red, you would have thought, man, it's going to bunch them up closer. Guys are going to make some minor changes. Now, granted, they couldn't change a whole lot.
Yeah.
But dude, he wasn't even on my radar to win the damn thing. And he came out and was like, keep counting me. Keep counting me out of everything. And he delivered an old-fashioned beatdown. And he proved why he is one of the GOATs of wing racing.
Yeah, he did. He looked phenomenal, and if that was the Donny Schatz that we got every week, he would no doubt be a contender for the championship. Speaking of the championship, right now in the NOS Energy Drink World of Outlaws points, you've got David Gravel leading the points. He's 6 points ahead of Brad Sweet, who had a very rough Kings Royal, as we talked about in the open. He did not even make the feature. him and Logan Schuchart, along with Jacob Allen. They all missed the feature for the Kings Royal. David Gravel actually got the win last night at BAPS. That was his 9th win on the season. Passed Sweet with, I want to say, about 10 laps, 12 laps to go, but it was around halfway. Sweet was gone too and was looking really good, and Gravel just tracked him down and passed him. Sweet fought back, got the lead, and then Gravel got back around him and pretty much just drove away with it. So got his 9th win on the season, gives himself a 6-point lead over Brad Sweet. Carson Macedo is 32 points behind. So the top 3 battling for the champion, and that's who it's going to come down to. Schuchart's in 4th. He's 216 behind. The top 3 would have to have some catastrophic failures over the next month to give, somebody outside that top 3 a shot at the championship. Keith, did you watch the race at BAPS last night?
No, unfortunately, I do not have dirt vision, but
yeah, it was a pretty good race. Their first time back there in, what was it, 30 years, I think they said, like something astronomical. So, yeah, hats off to Gravel on that win. Also, last night at Utica Rome, Ross Chastain ran a big block modified. Ended up finishing, I think he was 24th or 25th. But overall, it was cool to see him out there. He actually looked good in the car. I mean, he looked like he knew what he was doing. So that was really cool to see. What was it, 3 nights ago? Was it 3 nights ago? Lernerville Don Martin Memorial Silver Cup with the All-Stars. Once again, that was an incredible race. Why the Outlaws don't go there, I just find maddening. I cannot believe the Outlaws don't go to Lernerville anymore. I don't understand it. But All-Star race was really good. Keith, did you see the All-Star race?
I've seen the finish, and holy cow, that was probably some of the best racing on the final, 10 laps?
Yeah.
15 laps?
Yeah.
Lernerville's so awesome. I don't
It is.
understand why the Outlaws don't go there. I'd love for the USAC non-wing cars to go there, or even the midget.
Yeah.
Lernerville's just great. Their track rules, as far as videoing, kind of ridiculous.
Yes.
But nor here nor there. Still a great facility.
Yep. So Larson got by Buddy Kofoid. Poor Buddy Kofoid. How many big wins has he come close to this season? But Larson got by him, got the win. And yeah, it was a really good race. Lernerville is one of those tracks. I've always liked it. It's a very unique track. And it does usually put on some pretty good racing. Speaking of the All-Stars, big news out of the Clauson-Marshall Racing Camp as Sunshine, Tyler Courtney, his wreck at Eldora last weekend, he broke or fractured some vertebra in his back, I believe is the exact diagnosis. He's going to be out a while. And it sounds like there's actually a chance he might not be back at all this season, which does suck for Sunshine. On the flip side, it is giving 2 drivers, one of them Anthony Macri, who's going to be running the All-Star races, and the other is Corey Day, who is going to be racing the high limit races in that car. Keith, we've talked about Corey Day the last few weeks. He's obviously really big out here in California. He's kind of been dubbed the next big thing. He's only 16 years old, and he is getting an incredible opportunity to run. I mean, you can make the argument. I would say right now that the CMR ride is an outlaw level ride. I mean, that is to me, if they wanted to run the Outlaws, I think very much so that car is capable of being top 5 in the outlaw points, which is really saying something. And Corey Day is going to get the opportunity to run that car in the high limit races, and I cannot wait to see what this kid can do.
I completely agree with that statement. I think this is going to be one of Corey Day's best opportunities in a wing car outside of the car that he's in now, because he's in a great car now.
He is.
And him and Anthony Macri have an opportunity to prove a major point to everybody. It doesn't surprise me that Corey Day was tabbed to drive for Clauson-Marshall, being the fact that he raced midget week for him 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And ran pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's gonna help him more, and to be partnered with Clauson-Marshall and Brian Clauson's dad, Tim Clauson, I think is gonna be great for him. I think he's gonna learn a ton, and he's
Yes.
going to a team that ain't just gonna kick him to the curb if he struggles one night, because
No.
there will be struggles, but I don't think there'll be
Absolutely.
very
No,
many.
absolutely. Yeah, I was talking to my buddy Kyle about that. I've made mention of him before. He runs every weekend. He races against Corey Day almost on a weekly basis, and he said the same thing. He's like, look, the kid's gonna go out there and be incredible. He goes, he's also gonna have some big mistakes because he's going to tracks he's never been to before, right? You know, I don't care how talented you are, there's always going to be a little bit of a learning curve when you go to a new track. It's just a matter of how quickly can you pick up on it. Now, I think once he gets settled in, I would not be at all surprised if he got a win in the high limit series in one of the remaining races. That's how much confidence I have in that kid. If you have not seen Corey Day race, go watch some YouTube clips of it, because he is incredible. He really is. I've made mention to this before. I know it's like heresy to compare him to Kyle Larson, but like, we out here in California, and just so you guys know, talking to you, PA, we have some pretty damn good sprint car drivers that come from our state. And I haven't seen anything like this since Kyle Larson with Corey Day. And that's no joke. I really haven't. In terms of when you look at just raw car control, what he can do, his thought process behind the wheel, the way that he can literally make other drivers make mistakes, it's incredibly impressive. And like I said, he's only like 16. So, yeah, I can't wait to see it, man. I'm really looking forward to it. They've got a race. What is it, on the 25th? I think it's the 25th is the next high limit race. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, 25th at Grandview. They've got quite a few coming up. We've got the 25th at Grandview, August 1st at Kokomo, August 15th at Huset's, which I'm really looking forward to the show at Huset's. And then you've got Lernerville, Bridgeport, and then Lincoln Park. So, yeah, big opportunity for Corey Day. He's going to get six races in that ride, and it'll be interesting to see if he can turn this into something even bigger moving forward. So, yeah. Moving on in the dirt track recap, also, we've got kicking off tonight what me and Keith and many of our friends believe should be a national holiday is Indiana Sprint Week. Probably one of the funnest weeks in all of racing. I mean, it's one of my favorites. I look forward to it. I'm praying that we have good weather. I really am. It seems lately, man, that we've just had nothing but freaking rain. You know what I mean? It's just everywhere. Like, I'm not talking just dirt racing, but NASCAR. It just seems like there's always some kind of damn rain or lightning or something. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We got Gas City tonight, Kokomo tomorrow night. Then you've got Lawrenceburg and Circle City, and then they've got one night off, and then we're going to be finishing up with Terre Haute, Lincoln, Bloomington, Tri-State. And then they're off for like a month. The breaks that these guys get are crazy, the way that they do this.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's so weird that they do this and they take like a month. I the midgets did the same thing where they get like a month off, but then they'll be back. And I believe is it Kokomo SmackDown when they come back, Keith?
yeah.
Is
Yep.
that what that is? SmackDown, and it's late August, I think, the 25th or something, 24th. So yeah, Keith, who are you liking for Indiana Sprint Week?
Justin Grant. He's been pretty strong. If not Justin Grant, man, I got to go with the underdog of all of the guys. I got to say, I just forgot his damn name. Now I'm gonna botch it. Kyle Cummins is another one to keep your eye on. He's been really strong. Jake Swanson's another guy. I think Jake
Jake
Swanson's gonna
Swanson's
have.
leading points right now, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think. I mean, yeah, he's leading point now. He's only 3 points above Emerson Maxim, but still, I mean, yeah, that's a when you look at the fact that he's leading points and it's over Axum, Bacon, Grant, Cummins, Leary, Moles, Stockton, Persley, and Ballou. That's kind of a who's list, a murderer's row, if you will, of sprint car racing. So yeah, hats off to that guy. He's having an incredible season.
yeah. He's kind of came out of. I'm not gonna say nowhere, but kind of out of nowhere. Uh,
Yes,
he's been really strong. Him and Kyle Cummins both have had incredible season so far. But man, I just keep going back to Justin Grant. I think this is where the former champion will flex his muscle and beat up on some of these guys.
yeah, he Justin Grant is, I would say, hands down my favorite USAC driver um, right now. I really like what I just think his talent and skill really is above pretty much everybody else out there right now. When you look at um, well, I should say this, removing T-Mez, because T-Mez is just my favorite. He's like one of my favorite dirt guys, period, just because I like the dude. But I mean, just I really, really like Justin Grant. I think when you look at what he can do in the non-wing, the uh the midget, hell, even Silver Crown, his talent is just insane. And I like the fact that he's like old school, like setting up the car and making decisions, and you know what I mean. Like I like that. So yeah, I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Is T-Mez running any of Indiana Spring Week? I haven't heard.
I think he's running all of it.
All of it? Nice. That's good.
He is going to be in the Landon Simon, or not Landon Simon, the Kyle Simon owned 23 car that he won previously in, I think, at Waynesfield. So, and you could put him in a shoebox and he'd make that damn thing fast.
Yes, you would, which is why we love him. So,
Oh, absolutely. And if any of the listeners are confused on who T-Mez is, just look up T-Mez TV. He's an interesting character, but he's very smart when it comes to racing.
he is, dude. He is. He's got a really interesting story too, because the way that he came up was pretty incredible. I I've talked about it before, when we were running the USAC Western States series out here. Um, you know, back then there was a whole lot more asphalt racing in the midgets, right, than there is now. And I remember T-Mez kicking our ass, at the asphalt tracks. He Stockton, Madera, like these asphalt tracks, he would just whip us. And one of our drivers, I remember John saying, you know, like telling his dad, like jokingly, like, it's your fault I'm not as good on asphalt since I haven't been running it, as long as Meserol has. And that was the thing, like Meserol he'd raced like late models and, different cars, on asphalt before he even got into the open wheel stuff. And obviously when he did, he just took off. But yeah, he very interesting, cool dude from what I know of him. Obviously, he would not remember me. That was so long ago. so long ago. And, I was just a wrench turner on on a midget team, so no one of note. But yeah, he's one of those guys that he's just good for racing. Like he's just good for racing. Like I would love to have a team as in NASCAR. Don't care where he finished, just would love to have a team as in NASCAR. Right? Now, I don't want to take the team as from I don't want to take team as from dirt. I still need him on the dirt side. But if we could clone him, that would be a that would be an incredible tool to have right now.
Yeah, and he's an interesting character. He really is, and he always gives a great interview. His interviews are really great. They're freaking hilarious. So
Yeah.
anytime he has a microphone in front of his mouth, pay
Yep.
attention to what he says because it's usually pretty funny. Um, and I think he's one of the most underappreciated midget sprint car race car driver in general. Um, and he's usually making slow cars look a lot better than what they really are.
Yeah, the dude can drive. I mean, that's all there is to it. He's obviously an incredible talent. Um, and when you look at what he does in terms of success, versus the competition, there's the USAC ranks, man, midgets and sprint cars are really stacked with talent. I mean, they really are. When you start looking at the drivers who are out there right now running, um, yeah, and Team Ez is out there dicing it up with them every single night. So yeah, I'm glad to hear he's running Indiana Sprint Week, and that'll make me even more excited to watch the racing every single night.
Oh, 100%. And I want all the listeners, if you have Flow Racing, tune into the USAC Sprint Week races. They're always really good. They're usually bangers. I've been pleading our government to make this a national holiday so I can be off work every day of it, because
Which
it
they'll
should be.
never do, unfortunately.
No, never. It'll never happen. They'll see my letter and throw it away like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Uh, between that and midget week, I think both of them are really good weeks in racing, and they have a lot of history behind them as far as how long it's been around, and just a ton of history, really good racing, and they go to really good racetracks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the tracks that they're going to are some of my favorite tracks. When you look at, Gas City, Lawrenceburg, Kokomo, I just, yeah, it's gonna be fun. It always is. So
And I think the Lawrenceburg one stands out to me as far as what happened there at the beginning of the season when the race was canceled because of the unfortunate circumstance. I'm curious to see how drivers react to being there for the first time since that happened. But all in all, I
yeah,
think it's going to be a great week.
yep, I do too. I do too. So. All right, so that's going to do it for our dirt track recap. And before we wrap things up today, we're going to close it out with our GOAT of the week. So, Keith, who was your GOAT of the week?
I got to go with Papaw Donny Schatz. He proved to everybody that he still has what it takes to win the big races when the big crown jewel's on the line, other than the million. We'll leave that out. That's separate. But yeah, I got to go Donny Schatz and the 15 team on the Outlaw Tour.
Obviously, a good one. I mean, incredible run that he had in the Kings Royal. And yeah, it's just amazing to see him, like we talked about, just old school ass whipping is what he put on everybody. So yeah, I'm with you there. I'm gonna head over to the NASCAR side of things. I'm gonna go with Truex Jr. Another dominant performance, and we talked about it before. When Martin Truex Jr. wins, it's usually boring in terms of the battle for the lead because he's just dominant, and that's how he was this last week. He led like 250 out of 301 laps and looked like, championship form Martin Truex Jr. So I'm going to go with him. Two pretty easy picks to make, but hey, I mean, when you have the week that those guys had, how could you not make them your GOAT of the week. So, anyways, you guys, that's going to do it all for this week's show. We will be back next week, as always, with more racing news and action. So, Keith, my man, enjoy your weekend.
Absolutely. You enjoy your weekend too. Try to stay cool, because I know that just has to suck.
Yeah, it does. And I don't have a weekend. I'm not gonna have a weekend. I'm working literally the whole weekend. I do have tomorrow, which is Saturday, from like 4 p.m. till probably like 10 p.m. It is my wife's nephew's birthday. They're doing a big party and stuff, so I'll at least get to spend some time with the family at the party. But other than that, I'm pretty much working all weekend. So yeah, no weekend for me. But like I said, say it all the time. It's a good problem to have. Not complaining.
Hey, it's the good old-fashioned American dream.
That's right. That's right.
Work your life away.
That's right. Like I tell people all the time and it drives me nuts because I get asked this by people because I own two businesses. They're both successful in terms of they feed my family and they pay our bills. We're not rich, we're not wealthy, but we get by, and we get by better than obviously if I was working, some minimum wage job or whatever. But people think entrepreneur and they think this entrepreneur lifestyle, right? Because you have so many of these clowns, these jackasses all over social media pushing this bullshit narrative. It makes me so mad because that's not the case. It's not the truth. If you think you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to be flying around in jets and all this bullshit, it's so wrong. And the people who push that are so full of shit. They really are. They're just clowns. All they do is sell this dream, this idea. They don't actually have any substance to it, and people buy it because that's what people want, right? Who doesn't want to be on a private jet? Who doesn't want to be a millionaire? We all do. And unfortunately, it's just a lie. And the truth of the matter is 99% of entrepreneurs, what it means is that we will work 100 hours a week for ourselves before we will work 40 hours a week for somebody else. That's what it means. It means that it's pressure and you're up late at night from not knowing how you're going to make the payroll or pay your bills, or do you have enough cuts? Like, that's the truth of being an entrepreneur. And I love it. I love it. I'm not complaining about it. I love it because I control my own destiny, right? If the economy crashes, it's up to me. I'm not hoping I don't get a pink slip. So although I talk about how tired I am and exhausted and I'm not going to have a weekend and stuff like that, at the end of the day, I love it. And I wouldn't trade it. I'm glad to be where I'm at. So yeah, this is just my place to rant and rave. That's all I use. This is my therapy session once a week, Keith. So
hey, it's mine too.
There you go. There you go. So anyways, you guys, that'll do it. Thank you very much as always for joining us. Please download, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Get the show out there. And if you do all that for us, we'll be back here next week to do it all over again. So for myself, Thomas Brandon, and my man, Keith Bradley, take care.